Thought I'd show you about my leg pockets, so this is 1-inch PVC electrical conduit, you know, thick wall stuff. I just bought one section, one length of it, and this is the flanged area that came off of the end of the conduit. You know how it's flared out so it'll slip over? Okay, so I cut that into little rings. I got one here in my vise and one here in my hand, and I marked that into 8 pieces. And what I'm going to do is take my little razor saw, cut those 8 pieces, and once I get those cut, then they get glued onto the side of here, and then I drill and tap that for a thumb screw to go in and hold the leg. And these holes here are so you can reach through with your screwdriver. Okay, and there's the hole that the screw that holds it to the faceplate is, and so that lets you get your screw in there, and then you can drive it in with the screwdriver, so it's bigger on this side. And I just made that on my drill press with a step drill bit. I'll get a picture of that in here. So I'm sanding the inside of these curved pieces so that the glue will stick when I stick this on here. The only reason to do that is just to give you a little more wall thickness for the threads to bite into, so you don't strip them out as easy. Even though you're not going to cinch these things down real tight, you know, all it has to do is snug the leg to hold it in position. So there's what I'm using, a little 1024 by a half thumb screw. There's your thumb screw going in, and we're using a piece of 1-inch conduit inside of here, so it fits a little bit loose. But then you hook your thumb screw up, but it snugs it up, and it's just enough to hold the leg while you move your module around. Number 6 by 1-inch drywall screws. Then the one thing you want to watch for is these screws. Sometimes, yep, there's a little tip, barely a tip. Right there, you can see that it poke through a little point, so make sure you take like a little grinding wheel, sander, whatever, knock that off of there, because you don't want that interfering with the fit of this faceplate to the next module. So now we've got all our 4 leg pockets on there. We'll make some legs. As a really cool tool that you can get, this is a flex shaft on the end of a drill. Extra long drill bit, and I can get into these crazy tight places and drive the screws. A hardwood dowel fits inside the 1-inch conduit. These are oak or fir, whatever you find. There's a 1-inch pipe cap, PVC pipe cap, that I've drilled and tapped for these. This is 3/8, this is 5/16. Since gone to the smaller 5/16 carriage bolts, 4 inches, 4.5 inches long. So you drill a clearance hole up here into the wooden dowel, and I just glue this pipe cap on with an E6000 glue, some kind of good glue, and then the carriage bolt end, I have a can of dip it that I put it in. Dip it a couple times. You'll have to re-dip these periodically as the coating wears off, but it gives a nice little rubber foot, so you're not going to screw up anybody's floor. But with this system, I can undo the hose clamp and drop this leg down, and it will bring my modules to the 40-inch height that is for 1-track or N-track. This is a 3/4 inch dowel. I'm using oak dowels. It fits in here, and you can see it's got a little bit of slop, right? 10 inches from the top of our cap to the bottom of the leg, and then that will set our overall height. Now on these ones, instead of the plastic pipe cap, because some of the guys were concerned about how little threads I had engaging, I've gone with a just a 3/4 threaded cap. They do come apart. You can replace all the pieces, where the glued on ones are a little more iffy. And the way to do this is you drill the clearance hole for your bolt in the end of your dowel. Now I have access to a lathe, so I did it on a lathe, but if you're careful, you can do it with a vise and a drill press, or even a hand drill. You might want to make a jig or something, a V-block, to hold you straight so you don't get crooked on there. And then because I have access to a lathe, I screwed these onto the dowel like so, and drilled and tapped them while they were on the dowel. So I ended up with a straight thread, so I can get my adjustment in and out. So we start with a 34-inch piece of 1-inch conduit, deburr the ends. We've got an 18-inch piece of oak dowel. If you use the 1-inch pipe caps, you've got to sand the ends so that they'll fit on there. Then I'm using number 8 screws to hold the dowel in there. I drilled a clearance hole about 2 inches up on the conduit, and then marked the 10 inches that I wanted of the legs sticking out. Drilled my hole and set my screw in there, and that'll give me the clearance that I need to drop it down and track height if I want. And there's the module sitting on the legs. Thanks for watching. See you out there with your modules. After posting my leg making video, I had a little bit of a revelation. Putting the leg pockets right here out next in the corner and giving it a cant, which is what I've done on my other modules, does make the legs more susceptible to people bumping into them with their feet. And I made myself a little template. This is just a piece of foam core, and lay that in here, line it up with the center line. This is a 1-degree angle on each end, and then that moves my legs in. My modules are 18 inches wide, and this is 14 inches across the little template, so we've moved them in 2 inches. I put the pocket on here and sight through the little holes on the line, make sure it's all lined up. And I marked that with each individual leg pocket, because I didn't lay these out. They're not precision drilled, so every little pocket is a little bit different. I mean, they're close, but they're not exact. So then I take my little drill and just pre-drill that. Lined up with a screwdriver. And just start it by hand to make sure it's true. Now, once I've got the screws in the correct locations, then I can use my handy dandy flex driver. And cinch those down. And one thing you do want to make sure that you do is make sure the screws are straight, perpendicular, up and down, and that they go all the way in flush.